Hey guys, this is just a quick review side by side Vaseline, which is petroleum jelly, versus Hustle Butter. I picked some of this stuff up the other day when I went to the tattoo suppliers. Never really used it before, I've always seen it, and I thought I'd give it a go, see what it's like. And I've had a varied week at work this week. Used it quite a lot. Well, I've used it all week actually, just to get a feel for it, and I feel now I can give a decent review on it as opposed to using normal Vaseline. Okay, so most people know what Vaseline is. It's just standard good old petroleum jelly. It's been used for years by tattooists. Nothing wrong with it at all. Used throughout the tattoo process. And get another stick. This is the Hustle Butter, and again this can be used during the tattoo process, which is what I use it for, and it can also be used for aftercare, putting on people. First impressions, there's no getting away from the smell of it. It smells really, really nice, this stuff. I'll just get some out. It's got the texture of butter. That's what it feels like in your hand. It feels like butter, and it's quite fitting because it's called Hustle Butter. The main ingredient of it, in it is shea butter. On the ingredients there, all natural. Smells really, really nice. It's like a sweet, creamy, coconutty, maybe, sort of smell. Now, I've been using this all week, and obviously I've used Vaseline for, I can't remember how long, I've been using Vaseline since I started tattooing. Side by side, okay. Vaseline, pros and cons. Pros of Vaseline, it's cheap. It's really cheap. This cost me about £2, something like that, big tub of it. And although I don't use it for aftercare because it tends to block the pores, I do use it for the tattoo process, which is dabbing it, wiping on the skin, tattooing, wiping off, and it just keeps the skin from getting all gunked up and keeping your work area nice and clean. Now, with Vaseline, what I find is, after, especially on a day session, what tends to happen is with Vaseline is, it tends to start clogging up the tip of the needle. That's what I find. If you're doing like a 6-hour session, when you're getting into like the 4th hour, the ink tends to be like not going in the skin as well. Even when you're regularly rinsing your needles and whatnot in your rinse cup, because obviously Vaseline's water resistant, it tends to clog up quite a bit, and to the point where you might need to change the tip altogether in the needle, or you've got to give it a really, really good rinse out with some wipes and whatnot. Well, that's just it's just one of those things that you get used to, and it's just the way it is. It's just that's what we do with Vaseline. That's what happens when we use it. It's good for sticking ink caps down as well. Obviously, it's cheap enough, so there's no problem there. Another thing with Vaseline is, which I've always found a bit of a problem, is this. When I use thermal copy paper, okay, so I'm not on about hexagraph paper where I've done a hand-drawn stencil and stuck it straight onto the skin from the paper. I'm on about when I printed a design out, which I often do on the dot matrix printer. What Vaseline tends to do with a thermal copy paper stencil when that's on the skin is, if you're working on this area down here, say, so let's just say I'm working on this area, I'll put this Vaseline on here and I'm just doing this part of the design. If a bit of Vaseline gets up here on the design, on the stencil, what I tend to find happens is it starts dissolving the stencil. It actually starts making the stencil come off the skin. And you've seen videos where people are tattooing and they like to get the Vaseline, and they give the whole design a going over with Vaseline before they even start, to make all the skin supple. And if you did that with Vaseline on a stencil which is from a thermal copier, I guarantee that stencil at the top of your design will be gone before you get to it. If especially if you've got a day session. So with stuff like portraits, Vaseline can be a bit of a nightmare. It can be your worst enemy actually if you're doing a portrait, because if you've got like an old school design like Sailor Jerry type thing and you lose a bit of your design, you're okay, you can join the dots. With a portrait, if you lose the eyes, you're in trouble. You're in massive trouble, because that portrait needs to look exactly how the reference image looks. So smothering a portrait in Vaseline is just a massive no-go for me personally. So what I tend to do, the way I work, I'll just put a tiny piece of Vaseline on the bit I'm working, and I'm constantly checking the design, checking the stencil, making sure that bits aren't disappearing on me, which they often do when I use this. I'm going on about this because this stuff doesn't do that. Hustle Butter doesn't make the stencil disappear, which is a massive plus point about this. I've just started a horror sleeve this week, and you know, it's all like portraits, like kind of work type stuff on it, and use this and no stencil coming off whatsoever, keeps the skin nice and supple, absolutely fantastic stuff. So for that reason, it makes the barrier exactly the same as the Vaseline does. You lube your skin up with it and it keeps the ink from staying in the skin. But a massive advantage is, like I say, it doesn't let the stencil come off the skin. It just doesn't dissolve it at all. Now, pros and cons about this. Well, the con, if you want to call it a con, definite downside, Vaseline £2, this stuff £20. This is 250ml, £2. This is actually 150ml for £20. So, I'm certainly not going to be using this for sticking ink cups down. I'm going to be, for that sort of price, I'm going to be using it sparingly. Because with Vaseline, often or not, I usually put too much on the tray, to be fair, on the plate, and then I'll just bin it. It doesn't matter, it's cheap. This stuff, I'm definitely more cautious with it. Another disadvantage with this, it's not really a disadvantage, but something I probably need to mention, is when I tattoo, what I tend to do is, I'm left-handed, so I'm chilling with my machine in my left hand, and on my left hand I'll have a dollop of Vaseline on my glove here, and it's just so, I'm working with the machine, then I can just get some Vaseline and I'm doing this, and it just saves a little bit more time than going back to your plate all the time where your ink caps are. So I just have a dollop on here, and what I find that this stuff does is, get a dollop on here, just the warmth of your hands coming through the glove, it tends to melt it, and it can get a bit messy. So, where the Vaseline would probably stay there. I mean, the Vaseline does melt after a while, I've got to admit. After a few hours, the Vaseline's going to start doing that anyway. But this stuff, after about half an hour, I find it starts melting, it starts dripping down your hand here and whatnot on your glove. And, it's not a massive inconvenience, because all it means is, instead of putting it on your glove, you can put it on your plate and just go to your plate for it. But it's just the way I tattoo, it's just what I'm used to. So what I found that I started doing is, instead of having a big chunk of it on my glove, I'll have just a little piece on it, and then I can still get away with it without melting. I've used it before it's melted. But that's the only drawback I can find with it. I like to, and I know it sounds like I'm nitpicking, but I like to find pros and cons of every product, so it's not like I'm just champing it for no apparent reason. I'm trying to give like the fairest unbiased review I can on it. But all in all, to be fair, I will be buying this stuff again when this runs out. I probably won't use it on every single design that I do. I'd probably use Vaseline, if it's just like a name or something like that going on someone, just like a pretty simple little design that's only going to take half an hour or something like that, I'd probably just use Vaseline. But anything like portrait work or, big colour stuff, definitely I'll be using this. Definitely, it's a really good product. I know there's tons like it on the market, but I think this was one of the originals out there, and for good reason. It's stood the test of time. A lot of people use it, so yeah. All in all, pretty happy with it. Hustle Butter. Next time you're at your suppliers, grab some. They do it. This is, I think this is the biggest tub they do. They do a little size one for about, I think it's about £7, and then they do little sachets like use and want sachets sort of thing, and I think they're about £2, something like that. So definitely worth giving it a go for £2. Little sachet, give it a try, see if it works for you. I hope you enjoyed this review, guys, and if you like what you see, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Any questions, feel free to comment below, and I'll try and respond to as many as I can. And that's it. Thanks very much for watching, guys. See you soon.